Have you noticed a quiet change in someone you love lately? A shift so subtle that it's easy to dismiss? Maybe they eat a little less, seem more tired than usual, or simply aren't quite themselves? What if I told you that these small signs could be the body's way of preparing for something deeper? In this video, we'll gently uncover the 5 quiet but powerful signs that often appear in the year before someone passes away in old age. These signs aren't meant to scare you, but to help you prepare to walk alongside your loved one with tenderness, wisdom, and peace. Before we begin, if you care deeply about supporting your aging parents, grandparents, or elderly friends through their final seasons of life, please consider subscribing to our channel. Here, we talk about aging not with fear, but with reverence and care. Click that subscribe button and turn on the bell, so you don't miss videos that could truly guide you when it matters most. Number 1, weight loss without trying. The body's whisper. It often starts quietly, so quietly that even those closest don't see it at first. A mother who used to ask for second helpings now pushes her plate away half full. A grandfather who once took pride in his Sunday roast now says, "I'm not that hungry anymore." Clothes hang a little looser. Belts are tightened another notch. These changes might seem small, but to those who know what to look for, they whisper something deeper. The body is preparing. Weight loss in the final stage of life isn't the same as dieting or becoming frail with age. It's a biological shift. Sensing a change in its future, the body begins to conserve energy. Digestion slows. The metabolism downshifts. Even the sense of taste and smell, which once made a warm apple pie irresistible, dulls with time. Food no longer brings the same joy. Hunger becomes an afterthought. Families often try their best. "You need to eat, Mom," they plead. They bring favorite meals, prepare soft, nourishing dishes, and buy high-calorie drinks and snacks. Sometimes it helps for a while, but often the weight keeps dropping, and this can be deeply frustrating, especially for caregivers who equate food with love, food with care, food with life. But here's a truth that takes courage to accept. When the body no longer wants food, it's not rejecting love. It's simply slowing down its need for fuel. What's happening inside is complex. The muscles, which once gave strength to arms that held babies, worked gardens, and carried grandchildren, now quietly fade. The body no longer absorbs protein as efficiently. It doesn't convert it into muscle. Even the act of chewing, swallowing, and digesting, all of it begins to require more energy than it gives back. So the body, wise in its way, stops asking. In some cases, weight loss is tied to illness, cancers that silently grow, heart failure that slowly builds, and kidneys that tire of filtering. Other times, it's not a disease, but depression or a gentle dementia that leads someone to forget lunch altogether. Or perhaps, most tender of all, it's the spirit starting to detach from the world and its rhythm. But there is something you can do, and it's not just about calories, it's about comfort. Instead of pushing large meals, offer small, beautiful moments, a warm cup of tea shared on the porch, a bowl of soft mashed potatoes eaten slowly, with conversation, favorite smells from the kitchen. Even if they only take one bite, sit beside them, not just to serve food, but to share time. The warmth of your presence may nourish more than any meal. And when weight loss continues, and it likely will, try not to fight it with frustration. Ask instead, "What feels good to eat today? Would you like to try just a spoonful? Can I sit with you while you eat?" Sometimes, the goal is not to fatten, it's to soothe. The weight that disappears isn't just physical, it's symbolic. The body, in releasing its flesh, is beginning to release its ties. And while that truth is painful, it also invites us to shift from fixing to holding, from feeding to listening, from measuring health by pounds to measuring love by presence. If you're seeing this in someone you love, know this: you're not failing them by not fixing it. You're loving them by noticing. by sitting close, by offering warmth without pressure, because the body may be whispering goodbye, but your kindness, your patience, your presence, that speaks volumes. Number two, extreme fatigue and weakness when rest stops restoring. There was a time when your father could rise before dawn and water the garden before anyone else stirred, when your grandmother could carry laundry baskets, knead dough, or rock a crying baby to sleep for hours. Even in old age, many elders carry with them a kind of quiet stamina, decades of moving, giving, doing. But then something shifts. It starts subtly. They sleep in longer. They take breaks more often. They begin to say, "I'll do it later," or "maybe tomorrow." And eventually, even sitting up in bed becomes a task that requires effort. Conversations trail off. Their arms feel heavy, and suddenly, the person you've always known as strong is no longer strong, not because they gave up, but because their body simply can't keep going. This kind of fatigue is not the ordinary tiredness we all feel after a long day. This is exhaustion that sleep cannot erase. It's as if the energy they once carried so effortlessly has drained, little by little, leaving behind a shell that can no longer push. Physically, this happens as the body begins to shift priorities. The heart, no longer as powerful, pumps blood more slowly. The lungs take in less oxygen. Muscles, once responsive and alive, weaken. Every movement becomes a negotiation between desire and capacity. Even eating, showering, or getting dressed can leave them breathless. And emotionally, it takes a toll. Imagine living in a body that no longer obeys you, that trembles when you stand, that gives out halfway down the hallway. Many elders feel this decline in a deeply personal way, not just as a loss of strength, but a loss of identity. "I used to be able to do this," they think, and so shame creeps in. Frustration follows. Some begin to withdraw, not because they no longer want to be around others, but because they fear becoming a burden. For family members, it's tempting to try and lift them out of this. "Come on, let's take a short walk," we say. "You need to stay active." But sometimes, in our eagerness to help, we miss the message their body is quietly sending. "I'm tired in a way that activity won't fix." What's needed in this moment is not more effort, but more compassion. Help them shift from doing to being. Create spaces where they don't feel pressured to perform. Let them rest without guilt. Invite them to sit near a window and feel the sun. Turn on soft music. Offer a warm blanket, a gentle foot rub, or a story read aloud. If they sleep most of the day, let them. Their body is telling you something sacred. I am nearing the end, and I am preparing. And in that preparation, rest is not laziness, it is grace. But don't confuse this rest for absence. Even in their stillness, your loved one is here. Their hands may be weaker, but they still long to be held. Their voice may be softer, but they still want to be heard. Their eyes may close more often, but behind them are memories, feelings, and quiet reflections. So what can you do? Be near. Bring peace. Let your presence be permission for them to slow down, to release, to simply be. In this season, the greatest act of love isn't to push them forward, it's to walk beside them, even if only a few steps at a time. Because sometimes, what matters most isn't how much life we can fit into the final days, but how gently we allow those days to unfold. Number 3, increased confusion or withdrawal. When the mind begins to drift, it often begins with something small, a misplaced glass, a forgotten name, a repeated question. At first, you might smile and say, "We all have moments like that." And it's true, we do. But over time, you begin to notice a pattern. Your loved one, once so sharp, starts getting lost in conversations. They seem unsure of where they are or what day it is. They forget familiar faces, even just for a moment. And then, something even more subtle happens. They begin to pull away. They stop joining family dinners, even when they're in the next room. They sit in silence longer than they used to. They smile less, engage less. Their world becomes quieter, not because they're angry, not because they're depressed, but because something inside is shifting. This mental and emotional withdrawal is one of the most tender signs that the final stage of life may be approaching. And yet, it's also one of the most misunderstood. Many families interpret it as rudeness. She doesn't want to talk to anyone anymore. He's being difficult. But what's happening is far more sacred and far less controllable. The mind, like the body, is beginning to let go, neurologically. As circulation slows and oxygen levels drop, the brain receives less of what it needs to function, memory falters, processing speed declines, emotions become harder to regulate, and so, the elderly person begins to drift, not all at once, but like a tide slowly receding. Some days they may be clear, talkative, joyful, even. Other days, they may barely speak. And in some moments, they may say things that make little sense. This back and forth can be confusing for loved ones. He was fine yesterday. You might say, but this fluctuation is part of the journey. It's not linear, it's not logical, but it is natural. Withdrawal can also be protective. Conversations become exhausting. Noise feels overwhelming. Social energy runs low. And so, they begin to spend more time in their own company or quiet places. They may sit by a window for hours, just watching, or close their eyes, not to sleep, but to rest from the world. It's easy in this phase to feel helpless, to miss the person they used to be. But here's the truth. Even if their words fade, even if they forget your name, they still feel love. They still sense presence. They still respond to kindness. So what can you do? You don't need to bring them back to who they were. You only need to meet them where they are now. Sit with them. Speak gently. Hold their hand. Play their favorite song. Remind them with your presence that they are not alone. If they seem lost, be their anchor. If they seem silent, be calm. If they seem distant, know that your closeness still matters. And most of all, release the expectation that they must come back to be loved. Because this is not about reclaiming the past. It's about honoring the present, however fragile it may be. If you're noticing these signs, forgetfulness, confusion, quiet withdrawal, know that they are not failures of the person or of you. They are transitions, and they ask us not to fix, but to feel, to soften, to slow down. In this twilight space between clarity and fading, your gentleness becomes the bridge that carries them home. Number 4, frequent infections and slow healing. When the body lowers its defenses. There was a time when a simple cold came and went, a scrape healed within days, a fever broke overnight. But now, you notice your loved one seems to be under the weather more often, a cough that lingers, a urinary tract infection that comes back again, a bruise that takes weeks to fade, or a small cut that stays open far longer than it should. These aren't just signs of aging. They're messages from the body, messages that its defenses are no longer as strong as they once were. As the body nears its final season, the immune system, like every other system, begins to slow. It doesn't respond to viruses and bacteria the way it used to. White blood cells, those tireless soldiers of protection, are fewer. They arrive late. They fight more weakly. What was once a minor illness has now become a major ordeal. Families often respond with deep care, more doctor visits, more prescriptions. They try antibiotics, immune boosters, bandage iterations, and sometimes it helps for a little while, but often you'll find that the infections return or never quite go away. It can feel frustrating. It can feel like failure, but this is not failure. This is nature. When the body knows it is nearing the end, it begins to conserve. Rather than fight every invader, it chooses peace. It begins to shift from protecting life to surrendering to it. In this stage, even the smallest injuries become slow to heal. A scratch turns red, then lingers. A pressure sore appears on the back from lying too long. The skin, once firm and elastic, becomes fragile. Circulation weakens. carrying fewer nutrients to the surface, wounds reopen or seem stuck in time. And often, infections don't look like they used to. There may be no fever, no visible swelling. Instead, the first sign might be confusion, a sudden tiredness, a refusal to eat. Families are caught off guard. She was fine this morning, but these quiet shifts can be the body's way of sounding an alarm, one that's easy to miss unless you know how to listen. In this phase, the goal is not always to cure, but to comfort. Gentle hygiene becomes powerful, keeping skin clean and dry, moisturize cracked areas, helping them shift position regularly to prevent sores, encouraging small sips of water throughout the day to help flush the system. These small acts, done with love, often do more than medication ever could. And sometimes, what they need most isn't a hospital stay. It's to be home, in their bed, surrounded by familiar walls, with a soft blanket and a hand to hold. There's a quiet dignity in caring for someone during this stage, a kind of sacred tenderness. You begin to realize that healing no longer means getting better. It means being whole in a different way, being at peace, feeling seen, feeling safe. So if your loved one seems to catch every cold, if wounds linger, if treatments don't work like they used to, pause, take a breath, don't panic. Instead, ask what will bring them comfort today and listen. Because the body may be letting go, but your care, your touch, your presence, they still matter more than anything. If this part of the journey resonates with you, if you're navigating it with someone you love, know that you are not alone. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I gently invite you to do so now. On this channel, we talk about these tender truths with care, wisdom, and compassion. Subscribe and turn on the bell, so you'll always have guidance when you need it most. Number 5, major changes in breathing or circulation. When each breath becomes a farewell. There is a stillness that enters the room when breathing begins to change. It may start subtly, a deeper sigh, a longer pause between breaths, or a gentle wheeze that wasn't there before. Some notice their loved one now breathes through their mouth, or struggles to finish a sentence without catching their breath. Others begin to see their hands or feet turning cool, a faint bluish tint spreading across fingertips or lips. These aren't just medical symptoms. They are the body's final poetry, the last verses of a life gently preparing to close. Breathing, for most of our lives, is unconscious, automatic, effortless. But as the heart grows tired and lungs begin to work harder, breathing becomes more deliberate. Each inhale and exhale becomes a conversation between the body and the soul. A reminder that energy is being saved. Focus is no longer on motion, but on stillness. One common pattern, known to many who have witnessed this stage, is called Cheney-Stokes breathing, a series of deep breaths followed by pauses. To family members, this can be frightening. It feels unnatural, uneasy, but it is not a sign of pain. It is simply the body's way of slowing down, of easing into silence. Alongside these shifts in breath, you may also notice circulatory changes. The body, in its wisdom, begins to pull blood inward, toward the heart, the lungs, the brain. The extremities, fingers, toes, ears are no longer the priority. They cool, they pale, they grow still. And while this may seem alarming, it's not a mistake. It's a form of focus. The body choosing to preserve what matters most in its final stretch. Some elders feel breathless even at rest. They may prefer sleeping upright, leaning on pillows, or choosing a recliner over a bed. Lying flat feels suffocating. Talking becomes tiring. Even the act of turning over requires a pause and recovery. In certain cases, fluid builds up in the lungs. This can cause a soft gurgle when they breathe, a sound some refer to as the death rattle. Despite how unsettling it may be, this sound is often not painful. It's simply the result of fluid that the body no longer has the strength to clear. What your loved one needs most in this phase is not fear, but presence. Rather than rushing to fix, try to ease. Keep the room cool. Use a humidifier or offer gentle sips of water if they can still swallow. Rub lotion into their cold hands. Play soft music. Light a candle. Whisper reassuring words. You do not have to speak loudly. You do not have to ask them to respond. Just let your love be felt in the air they breathe. In the stillness you share, this is not a time for panic. It is a time for peace. And if you are sitting beside someone who is nearing their final breaths, know this. Your presence is the medicine now, more than oxygen tanks or hospital machines, more than procedures or prescriptions. You are the comfort. You are the calm. In these final days, the body returns to stillness. The breath slows. The heart softens. And the soul, sensing that its journey is complete, begins to prepare for what comes next. Let it be sacred. Let it be quiet. Let it be full of love. If this moment finds you in the presence of someone who is breathing differently, resting more deeply, fading gently, know that you are not alone in what you feel. Many have walked this path, and many have found grace in it. If you haven't subscribed yet, I gently encourage you to do so now. This channel is a place where we speak truthfully but tenderly about life, aging, and the final transition. Subscribe so you'll always have a hand to hold, even in the hardest chapters. As we close, let's remember these signs: weight loss, deep fatigue, confusion, frequent illness, and changes in breathing aren't warnings to be feared. They're invitations to show up more fully, to love more gently, to hold what's precious a little tighter. They say that in the final year of life, the body speaks softly, but those who know how to listen will hear, it's time to make peace, to forgive, to let go, or to simply sit and be. So if someone you love is showing these signs, don't rush to fix them. Instead, ask, how can I help you feel safe today? What would bring you peace right now? And most of all, say what matters. I love you. You're not alone. I'm here. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you, please leave a comment below. Let us know what resonated most with you. And don't forget to share this video with others who may need comfort or clarity right now. We'll see you in the next video with more gentle wisdom for life's most tender seasons.